afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. We're glad you're joining us today. It's a beautiful sunny day in downtown Jackson, Mississippi, where we're coming to you live from our own very unique digital broadcast studio. And it's about 87 degrees and climbing, not a cloud in the sky. And my name is Chris Young, and my co-host, as always, is Mr. Socrates Garrett. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Chris. How are you?
Very good. I never had it so good. That glass is definitely half full today. Mm-hmm. And we've got a list of topics today, but I understand you have an update from the Black Press, the National Newspaper Association. You want to kick off with that?
Well, I can. We certainly have followed the National Newspaper Association for more than 30 years. And I was a member of that organization for a long time as the publisher of the Mississippi Link newspaper. My successor, Jackie Hampton, continues to publish the Mississippi Link newspaper and also is a board member on NNPA. And so we'll follow their progress as they try to chart new ways of doing things and new ways of empowering the Black community. We have to go back just a moment and think about the importance of the Black press. You know, back during the days of Harry Truman and earlier, the press was critically important in order to get information out to African Americans all over this country as to what was going on and who the perpetrators were and what were some of the relative solutions to that. So NNPA and its 230 members and 230 African American owned newspapers throughout this country do a tremendous job in keeping the Black community informed as to what's going on. They're also very much engaged in voter participation and trying to change the political landscape, because many believe in the Black community that the secret to any achievement or success that we might have lies in the power of the vote. So at the convention that was held down in New Orleans this past weekend, we got our feedback from the Mississippi Link newspaper, from the publisher Jackie Hampton, that NNPA and the Transformative Justice Coalition announced a national GOTV campaign targeting 10 million more Black voters. Wow. Let me say that again. The NNPA and Transformative Justice Coalition announced national GOTV, Get Out the Vote campaign, targeting 10 million more Black voters. So they're going to be having tours all over this country. And naturally, they're going to be focusing in the areas that are primarily Black. In Mississippi, that would be the 2nd Congressional District, which is probably 85% Black. And so they're going to be hitting those Black diasporas in a way like you've never seen before, with vans and speakers and tours and newspapers all leading with the same story at the same time all over this country, all carrying the same informative information about this campaign. So we're grateful here at We Believe Digital to have a publisher of the Mississippi Link newspaper and a board member of NNPA in our presence. And so we get updated first-time information long before it reaches mainstream America. So, Chris, that's my report on the National Newspaper Association.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, it makes me think, Mr. Garrett, I mean, would the Voting Rights Act, would the Voting Rights Act have happened if it wasn't for the pressure applied by SNCC, by Dr. King, etc.? I mean, it's Black voters and it's Black boots on the ground that accomplish so much change, positive change in this country.
Well, yeah, you know, Chris, I go back even further. It certainly requires the individuals that you named and the organizations that you named, but, you know, it's the young people that have to be mobilized in many ways. Martin Luther King had a youth movement. Their base was young. And so, all of the successful advocates of the African American cause had a youth contention that worked right along with them. And so it's a remarkable job how the black press has survived over these years. There's a tremendous stress and strain on publications all across the world, as you see the New York Times being sold, or the paper in Washington being sold, and you see all of these things begin to put pressure on the freedom of speech and the dissemination of information. It's a lot of pressure to do away with that in this country, as it's like in other countries. In Russia, you hear about journalists being locked up and maintained in prisons all over the world. So we're the only country that really advocates free speech. And we only get that through the black press as it relates to black news.
Right. Very good. Well, Sunday night they had the Black Entertainment News and the BET Awards, the annual award show. And you know who showed up on the stage with essentially checks in hand was P. Diddy, Sean Combs, and pledged on live television to provide not only Howard University but also Jackson State University with a $1 million contribution. And I can't think of all the wonderful things that can come out of that, and that recognition by such a high-profile artist, but not forgetting, these HBCUs.
Well, yeah, I saw that as well, and many thanks to P. Diddy and his team for making that kind of a contribution inside of that studio. Hold on a second, Chris. Sorry about that. And $1 million goes a long ways. We were just talking about, and I hate to redirect for a moment, but we were just talking about the $1.2 million savings that the proposed African-American owned firm for garbage collections in the city of Jackson, and what that would mean. $1.2 million a year would give you a new police department, added members to that. So with JSU receiving a grant like that from an African-American means a lot. We've noticed recently where Netflix has given money to Hope Credit Union and to Tougaloo College and maybe Alcorn State College, etc. But those are major white-owned establishments that are giving back because of the tremendous amount of wealth that it extracts out of the black community. And we don't see enough of that from black entities and individuals that have the wherewithal to do so. So maybe this is a seed that P. Diddy is planting, and maybe that it will grow and we'll have a lot more. We'll have $100 million before it's over being given to HBCUs.
That'd be marvelous. That'd be great. Well, it was just a few days ago when at the end of last week, where we had this massive decision in this country where after 49 years of precedent saying that women's health care and to include abortions under Roe v. Wade, was the law, was recognized as a constitutional right, and that has now gone away, despite nearly 70% of the American public being in favor of Roe. And now we have this, now this has been turned over to the states, and boy, they're already biting at the bit to go ahead and outlaw 13 states that have trigger laws. 9 of them I've already said that's it. There's no longer any abortions in those states.
Well, Chris, you need to help me and our viewers understand this law. Is Roe versus Wade, was it an amendment, or was the Supreme Court's ruling saying that it wasn't protected by the Constitution. I mean, exactly where is the divide here with the Supreme Court that would cause them to render such a ruling?
Yeah, it seemed like a simple question, but there's so much to it, and it had been built on other decisions for many, many years, and again, just recognized by previous courts. Some of them leaned more liberal, some of them leaned more conservative, but it had been recognized for 49 years, built on other precedents that said, no, this is just as much a right as any other right that people enjoy under the Constitution. And now Justice Alito was the primary author, and just saying that, no, all those decisions, all those previous justices, can you imagine? He's saying they got it all wrong. It should have never been. And so now what they're doing is saying it's no longer a federal guarantee under the Constitution, as it has been for 49 years, and we're going to turn it back over to the states and let them decide, have their own laws. And so now you've got women running to Mexico, and you've got people shifting from Mississippi over to New Mexico to get these abortion services.
Wow. But I'm still a little unclear on this 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
Was Roe versus Wade a part of the 14th Amendment?
It was not part of it.
It's not.
No.
And so are there any other rights that are in jeopardy, like the Voting Rights Act, which was in the 14th Amendment?
Mm-hmm. No, as far as I know, the Voting Rights Act is not in jeopardy at all. That's not to say that the states are not doing whatever they can to control the different powers, the different levers of power, whether it's conservative or more liberal, are trying to make sure that it all comes down to, does it really equal, especially in the national general elections that lead up to the Electoral College. Is it really in America one person, one vote anymore? And I mean, it isn't. Half of these Supreme Court justices that had a chance to weigh in on this decision were appointed by presidents of the United States that had not won the popular vote. They had not won the popular vote of the people, but yet they made it into office through the Electoral College.
Wow. So...
And with 70% of the public being in favor of this, and still they say no.
So was the court split on their decision?
The court was split, 6-3 and 5-4. There were two different decisions that took place. The Dobbs decision here in Mississippi about the 15-week, a boundary line of 15 weeks, but there's some states that now that the federal courts have turned it over to the states, I believe it was Missouri I was listening to last night, they're implementing the fetal heartbeat. As soon as a doctor can hear a heartbeat, that's it. No opportunity for the procedure.
Wow. It's very confusing. I know that Mississippi has had a terrible history when it comes to human rights and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And I believe that it was the Mississippi law or the Mississippi court filings
yes.
that the Supreme Court used to render its verdict.
That's what got them looking at the whole thing. This Dobbs v. the can't think of the name right now of the clinic. The only clinic in Mississippi is located right here in Jackson, the Pink House, up on State Street.
So once again, Mississippi leads in the wrong direction. It's a Mississippi case that the Supreme Court used to look at the whole Roe versus Wade deal and eventually overturn a law that had stood for 49 years or more. And Mississippians, especially our governor, said he's never been prouder
yes.
than he is right here today.
Yes.
Chris, we're going to a commercial break, and after that, I'd like for you to allow me to continue probing in that area.
Yes, sir.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Wedding, milestone anniversary, or corporate event, 5 Star Lodge is the rustic elegance you need for your event space. With hardwood and stunning chandeliers, this is just the beginning of the 5-star treatment. Our on-site venue manager will ensure all details exceed your expectations. We offer a luxurious bridal lounge, beautiful reception hall, cabins, and an outdoor pavilion on the water. Visit 5stareventlodge.com to get started on your most memorable experience.
Are you tired of living check to check and looking for residual income? We have just the opportunity for you. Join us on Saturday, the 25th of June in Jackson, Mississippi, as we discuss the sexiest industry in the world, travel. Let's turn your passion into profits, whether it's on a full-time or part-time basis. Please RSVP or text to 404-915-8626. We look forward to connecting and taking flight. See you soon.
And welcome back, everybody. And we're certainly glad you're joining us here at this We Believe Digital Studios. We were just talking about the Roe versus Wade issue, and Mr. Garrett, the name is the Jackson Women's Health Organization. There was the health director, Thomas Dobbs, versus the Jackson Women's Health Organization is what got through to the Supreme Court, and they decided to hear the case, and then that led to the broader issue of voting down Roe versus Wade. But it's an interesting little caveat here I want to share with you is that the day after this, or 2 days after this came out, this decision from the Supreme Court, the Jackson Women's Health Organization filed suit against the state of Mississippi because of their trigger law. Now, this trigger law went into effect in the last few years, basically saying if the federal government overturned Roe v. Wade, then automatically Mississippi was right there at the trigger, ready to go ahead and do the same in the state of Mississippi. But what this lawsuit says is, based on a 1998 decision called Pro-Choice Mississippi versus Fortis, claimed that abortion is a right under the Mississippi Constitution. And so literally, the Women's Health Organization discovered that Mississippi has a law on the books, Pro-Choice Mississippi v. Fortis, that states that abortion is a constitutional right in Mississippi, totally flying in the face of the other decisions. So we'll have to see how that pans out.
Well, who would make a decision on something like that? Would that go before the Chancery Court judges?
They filed it in Hinds County Circuit Court.
Circuit Court.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting. I would imagine that this issue is going to be one that is going to leave lingering scars. Mm-hmm. And going to divide families. Mm-hmm. It's going to cause states like Mississippi to lose even more population when we are experiencing a real brain drain as it is. Mm-hmm. I just don't know what our leaders are thinking. Mm-hmm. But it's just not in Mississippi, apparently.
No. But one of the things, too, that it never goes too far from my mind, pregnancy outcomes with African American women are not as good as with other races. In other words, this ability to have the abortion due to other health factors that are well known is something that just seems totally lost on people. It's like they don't even know that that's the truth. It's just like with COVID. They said that black and brown people are at a much higher risk because of existing health conditions. They're much more susceptible during this pandemic. But was there an allowance built in, like here in this red state of Mississippi, it just seems like nobody went out of their way to, to make the vaccines. They were talking about not wearing masks and ivermectin, and they were at the beginning they seemed to push the vaccines, but more recently it just seemed like it's a hands-off, everybody for themselves kind of thing. And when 40% of your population is African American, that has pre-existing conditions related to their race, that it seemed like that's telling you something, that nobody wants to tend to that issue.
Well, it certainly is a leadership issue. And we're having the elections, and we're in the heartbeat of the midterms that are coming up, and the National Newspaper Association once again, and Transformative Justice Coalition announced a national GOTV campaign targeting 10 million more black voters. I believe that this abortion issue is going to be the key issue in the midterms.
No question.
Now, in Mississippi, it may be an issue that gets one elected. On the national scene, it may cause people to lose their seats. Would you agree?
I would agree, and I also think that, I've searched for the right words to say this, but I also think that, I also believe that things like this, issues like this, Roe v. Wade being overturned, heighten the national consciousness, especially with more and more white people, I believe, each and every day, get snapped out of their daze of superiority and realize what's really going on in this country, and that there's a large segment of the voting population that wants to keep anything other than the white population marginalized.
Wow. Well, the fear in the white replacement theory that's out there now, the fear is that white folk will lose their jobs and their position and their status. And it seems to be a real fear. Now, we have a divide in this country on immigration.
Yeah.
And certainly we have the racial issues inside the country that are at an all-time fever pitch, at a boiling point. And we have incidents like occurred in Buffalo, New York, where a young man traveled 200 miles to a predominantly African-American community.
A white person.
To target blacks.
Specifically.
And kill several.
Yeah.
19 maybe, I forget the number. But
with a 120-page manifesto saying why he needed to do that.
And so these things, well, I would think that it's being perceived to many Europeans, it seems to be real. And that fear is real. And so the tragedies are being seen every day. Chris, I saw where there were a container load of immigrants that died from heat.
51. Total up to 51.
51. Yeah. Trying to get in this country. I believe they were down in Arizona. And so...
San Antonio.
Yeah. And so there are some things going on here that people are running from the oppressors in the countries that they're coming from, trying to find a better way and a better life.
Right.
And when they reach American soil, contrary to the Statue of Liberty, they're now being met with hostilities and put in conditions and requiring them to expose themselves to life-threatening events like the one that happened in the 18-wheeler container.
It doesn't sound like a shining city on a hill.
No, it didn't sound like a shining city on the hill that they were coming from.
Right.
And certainly when they got here, it was the worst end that you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And so Russia is fighting Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Israel and the Palestinians continue to be at war. Is this whole country going afoul, Chris? And if so, why?
Yeah, it's just how do you reconcile a nation of immigrants? I mean, the native the original folks that came over here, exploited the Native American Indians that were already here, and then those Europeans, made these settlements, and then they decided that look, this is all this broad land, and then next thing you know, slavery gets brought here, and the oppression of that, and so and it's just their fervent belief in a nation of immigrants. Their fervent belief is that this is their country now.
Wow.
Just so flawed, and so morally questionable.
Well, Chris, let's talk about our city government in our last 5 minutes.
Well, we've got stuff going on for sure. They did have the Republican primary runoffs yesterday, and of course that's statewide. But just very quickly, for the second congressional district, a guy by the name of this for Republican primary runoffs, because the elections on June 7th were so close. A guy named Brian Flowers won for the second Republican district, so he'll face a Democrat in November. Then for the third district, which here we are in the third.
In the second district, he'll face the chairman of the committee that's investigating the January 6th coup, the overthrow of the American government. Would anybody in his right mind run against the chairman of such a powerful man as Benny Thompson?
Bolton, Mississippi, born and raised, Benny Thompson. Brian Flowers doesn't have a chance. I mean, no matter how early he gets up and no matter how many bowls of Wheaties he has that day, it's not happening.
It's an uphill battle, isn't it?
And then in District 3, the incumbent, Michael Guest, got scared mightily on the June 7th elections. He came out with, I think, about 300 votes less than this newcomer who'd only moved to the state a year and a half ago. He had done training in Meridian when he was active duty Navy, but yesterday he beat out Michael Cassidy by a long shot. So he'll remain the incumbent in the third district. And he, one of these talk radio shows, which we know is a lot different than our news show. They said that Guest was, like a Trumper, and this guy that was running against him, Michael Cassidy, was like a Trumper on steroids. So he didn't make it though.
Well, the Republican machine is well and is funded, and it went into action in the runoffs.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Cassidy led that race during the primary. He got more votes than the incumbent, Michael Guest. But after that, the Republican machine saw what was happening.
Locked in.
And it locked in, and it was no contest in the runoff.
No matter what was said, everybody believed that was the gospel.
Well, my friend Haley Barber, wherever you are out there in the world, Washington, D.C., New York City, once again, your tentacles are being felt and seen down here in the great state of Mississippi in politics. And congratulations, sir. On your ability to be able to mobilize the Republican base. And Mr. Cassidy certainly has a bright future, but he needs to find another career path.
Yes. And then in the District 4, the sheriff from Jackson County, Mike Ezell, he beat out the incumbent, the 11 to 12 year incumbent, Steve Palazzo, down there to the south. And I think one of the big things with that could be that Palazzo has ethics investigations been going on for some time with him. Quite a controversial figure, Palazzo.
Palazzo, been there 11 times?
11 years.
11 years?
Yeah. So he'll be rolling out.
He'll be rolling out, and they'll
Right.
get new blood in there.
Right.
Even though it's difficult for me to fathom how we're going to improve our positions when we move sheriffs and prosecutors we promote them up into the lawmaking arena.
Right.
It just doesn't seem to be their natural path. Because we need more people that have been exposed to cultures and different cultures across this country and share the values that our strength is in our diversity. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen that come from many of our local sheriffs.
I know a lot of the community policing now for the last 30 years, I want to say, has been a buzzword.
Yeah.
You see pieces of it here and there, but sometimes I'm not so sure it's serving the people is what's top of mind.
It's the most distrusted organization in our state, is our local police department.
Yeah. And again, and we did have some news too. You asked about the local level here in Jackson. We did have some news that coming soon. You know, a rate hike coming. We got this sanitation contract dispute in the courts. The next court hearing is July 8th on that. But in the meantime, a rate hike has been announced from $16 per month for the new fiscal year. So it goes from $20.84 for the typical household per month up to $37. That's a 77.75% increase is coming. Rising costs and budget shortfalls are blamed by the Jackson administration for that. So you know that's not going to go over well. And then earlier in the year, they had announced it would go from 16 to 35, which that in itself would have been a 68% increase. But before they but council didn't vote on that. Before they even had a chance to implement that, now they've revised it, and it's now from 35 up to $37.
Well, our time is just about up, Chris. As always, I've enjoyed co-hosting this show with you. The numbers that you've just outlined and shared with the world, once again, just indicate that poor people are going to have a difficult time in this economy and just in the quality of life. High inflation, high interest rates, high unemployment, and rate increases of that magnitude signals trouble in the land.
Right.
For local Jacksonians, Chris.
Right. Thank you so much, everybody. We hope you got something out of the program that you can take with you, and enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home.